Hi, I'm David Bodemer, the editorial director with National Real Estate Investor. We're here at the Commercial Real Estate High Net Worth Investment Conference in New York City, here with Matthew May from May Realty Advisors. Thank you for joining us.
Pleasure.
So you have, you're talking about a bit of a specific topic here, right? You're moderating a panel that's talking about tax credits, talking about ways of structuring single tenant net lease investments in a different way to kind of like in a way that'll boost their return based on some of the tax treatment. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And so can you kind of like walk us through a little bit of the highlights of what will be taken up?
Absolutely. So the first part of it is tax credits that are out there, such as new market tax credits for conservancy, where high net worth investors can buy tax credits on the open market or off market and get basically a discount on their taxes that erode. And like new market tax credits, which is a federal program just for development, it's a win-win, where sometimes lenders or investors will buy them at 80 cents on the dollar. They save money, and urban areas are able to get new development from residential, from mixed use, and it's a national campaign and a national program. So it's really one of the nice things that helps create jobs, improves areas, and saves money.
And this is a strategy that I would guess that this audience is probably not that aware of, right? I mean, like this is not something that. How much is this used at this point, and like how do you kind of increase awareness about it?
It is not used that much. Ironic, like Barbara Streisand, who owned a number of homes in Malibu, gave away a lot of the homes and the land around it to conservancy for the tax credits. So it is something that most tax planners may have read about, but they're not intimate on how to acquire them or how to execute them. And because it's not it's a real estate oriented one, it's something that takes it one next level of skill set. And in fact, Ricky Novak, who's on the panel, he's actually working on a program now with Vinters, who are willing to take their land, put into a conservancy, so it'll always stay for producing grapes and not for development, and they're able to take that money and put it back into their business.
Interesting. So how do you how does one like kind of get, what kind of expertise do you need in terms of like structuring these deals or getting access to this market?
In that aspect, the expertise is from my co-panelist, Ricky Novak, and his company. They're tax attorneys, they're CPAs, they're real estate experts, so they understand it, and they've done research on it, but they also understand the practical aspects of it, and they can reverse engineer the process. So when they're negotiating with the entities that are buying the tax credits and those that are selling it, they can really understand it and convey it, as opposed to making it very esoteric, which is what has been one of the obstacles.
Right.
The other aspect of the panel that I'm focused on, which is utilizing single tenant net lease investments, primarily leased to national credit tenants, which most people look at as a very boring investment. And boring is good.
Right, just nice, stable. You're generating your consistent returns for a period. You don't have to worry about managing the asset, right? I mean, that's that's the allure.
It's a bond alternative.
Right.
But where a CVS bond may pay you a 3%, you may be able to get a traditional 6 or 7% return. So for one segment of the investment class that the CDs are getting nothing, it's a very safe long-term investment, but not sexy in that way. But there are alternative uses for them. One is utilizing single-tenant deals that are highly leveraged, which means from 75 to 90%.
Okay.
One is for forgiveness of debt, so people that have had foreclosures, and all of a sudden they give back a property to the lender, and they have a huge recapture. They can buy these deals and do a 1031 exchange and mitigate the debt. So that's a small market, but once again, it's one that not everybody thinks about because they're so concerned about dealing with the issue at hand with the lender that they forget about the tax impacts.
Right.
But the more exciting part of it is when you do something that's a zero cash flow, what that means is 100% of the income goes to pay the mortgage. So simple deal is you buy a CVS for $5 million, you put down $1 million at 20%. At the end of the 25-year period, the building's free and clear. Each year, as the mortgage gets paid down, you get what they call phantom income, meaning that you get equity but no cash flow. And it's a taxable event. So for people that have traditional net operating losses and other real estate, it offsets it, and it works out very well. Alternatively, you can buy these types of assets in retirement accounts, whether it's a solo 401k or Roth IRAs. And the beauty of it is that the phantom income is sheltered. So if you have a situation where, once again, a CVS $5 million deal, you put $1 million down. If you look at the compound where you put $1 million and in 25 years you turn it into $5 million, assuming there's no increase in value, it's a phenomenal return. And especially when you look at it and say, wait, this is a investment grade tenant backed by the real estate. Alternatively, if you bought that bond, you're going to get maybe a third to half of that return, and you don't have the asset as protection behind it. And as you are able to get better leverage, if you had a Kroger deal on a 25-year lease, you may be able to get 90%, and your returns can be in the high teens.
Wow. Okay.
So it's something that people never go, how do I get that kind of return with investment grade?
Right.
It's not thought of.
No.
The other thing we look at within the zero cash flows are for 1031 exchange, where you can trade into one, it absorbs your debt, and then you can pull out your cash. So an example, we have a client that has bought a $55 million Home Depot distribution center for $9 million of cash, $6 million of cash. And he absorbed all his debt and then was able to pull out all the cash. It's almost like a cash refi, but with the benefits of still having the real estate. And then because that property was a larger value than his trade, he had enough extra basis in it or position that he could do a reverse exchange into another property. So if you have a $40 million property that you just sold, and then you have a $14 million property, now you've covered the trade on both of those and pulled the cash out. So there's looking at these as a tax savings vehicle in addition to a real estate vehicle. And as the capital gains is set to increase, there'll be more and more demand for those products. And they are fairly liquid because there's somebody else who always has a problem trying to fund the trade that will traditionally buy that asset from you and do the same thing.
Oh, okay.
So it's a fluid market. It's a little harder today because there's not as many assets trading.
Right.
But once again, it's another alternative for people to put their money where they don't think about it and get safety.
And safety
and liquidity.
and more yield than you might expect.
Absolutely.
Interesting. Great. Well, thank you for walking us through that. I'm sure your panel will be quite fascinating to kind of get the even more detail on this stuff. But thanks for joining us.
I appreciate it.
And thanks for watching our video coverage of the event, and watch all of our coverage from the conference.